thing I'm concerned about is tech authoritarianism with the rise of AI. And some of these people that Trump and MAGA have kind of brought into the tent, like
I don't actually think so. I think the
concerned
main
about it or no?
I think that, well, it's not that I'm not concerned. I'm concerned about anything that people are doing, anything that people in power are doing, because there's always going to be people in power who are abusing their power. So I'm always concerned about that. But I think the main threat comes from managerial elites rather than technocratic elites. The managerial elites, like this gigantic bloated bureaucracy we have in DC, the gigantic bloated bureaucracies we have in every Western country, the gigantic bloated bureaucracy with the UN and the EU. To me, that's where the main threat to freedom comes from. These unaccountable, distant bureaucracies run by people with globalist agenda who are promoting policies which are doing an enormous amount of harm to the people in every Western country. That's where the main threat. And as those elites increasingly lose the legitimacy, as they are now, as they increasingly lose the legitimacy, they tend to become increasingly authoritarian. And as they become more authoritarian, they're going to lose more legitimacy. And so we're in this downward cycle where the ruling elites are in a spiral of decline, and they could collapse at some point. But then the question is, what's going to replace them? And I don't know the answer to that. With respect to the dangers of technological, I don't know if it's technological managerialism that I'm worried about. I'm more worried about the pernicious effects of technologies themselves. I mean, I don't know what the effect of AI is going to be. I mean, there's a lot of doomsayers, and then there's a lot of utopians with respect to evaluating AI. And I mean, just from the standpoint of a former faculty member, I think AI has already had a tremendously damaging effect because students are now going to be writing papers with AI, and doing even less work than they're already doing. And we already have a problem where most students don't have adequate skills. They don't have adequate reading skills. They don't have adequate writing skills. They don't have adequate math skills. They've been coddled by getting inflated grades throughout their entire educational career. And so you've got a lot of people now in college and even in graduate school, except at the very top levels, very top universities. You've got a lot of people in colleges and graduate school who are really who don't even belong in universities. They'd be better off going to vocational schools, quite honestly. And now we've got technologies that enable them to write papers. And now the burden is going to be on professors to try to identify when people are not even writing their own papers, that they've just used AI programs to write their own papers. I mean, it's just going to degrade the whole process even more and allow lazy people without adequate skills to try to pass themselves off as having more knowledge and abilities than they actually have.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Jeff, I think we have to end there, but
okay.
Thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome. And, I just the last point I'll make is that I tend to be a pessimist rather than an optimist. And so, I always see the glass being half empty. So, I mean, generally speaking, I consider that the realistic attitude, because usually the pessimistic attitude ends up being the realistic attitude. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope that all these negative things that are afflicting Western countries, which I think are leading to the collapse of Western civilization. I mean, I always joke that I feel like I'm a Roman citizen in the year 450, like 26 years before the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. That's the way I feel. I think the West is on the verge of precipitous collapse. I hope I'm wrong, and I'd love to be wrong, but unfortunately, that's my fear.
Wow.
So on that happy note.